Hey NFL fans, this is the Overthinker and welcome to the channel. Today we had the Steelers defeating the Browns 23-9 and maybe could have been more if not for some help from the refs. The Steelers started off hot here with one of the first plays of the game, hitting Darnell Washington there on a play action pass, kind of a heavy set there. And on this play you saw the full speed on display, and that is just an insane amount of speed for a defense to deal with a guy that size. We all kind of knew coming out of the draft that this guy had an insane amount of upside, and it does look like he is starting to reach that, and I do think he could be even better. I think if you look over the next couple of years, he could potentially reach one of the top few tight ends in the NFL, especially when you're talking about a 3-down starter and a guy who can block. Definitely a guy who can handle defensive ends in the run game and do a lot of interesting stuff in terms of blocking, but also you get the ball to him and he can run really fast and break tackles. And in this game, he had some nice plays, showing the hands, getting open. So yeah, I think this is the first game where I kind of watched the Steelers and I felt like, yeah, it looks like he's ready to kind of take that next step and be a huge part of this offense going forward, probably getting more targets. And yeah, I think the sky truly is the limit. This guy has unbelievable talent, and I think he could realistically be the best tight end in the NFL in a couple of years. And we also had Nate Herbig getting a sack on Dillon Gabriel. This was pretty cool. The announcer said that basically Nate Herbig and Dillon Gabriel played in the state championship in high school in Hawaii, and that was pretty cool to see some film on that. So yeah, that's a pretty fun kind of tidbit that they threw in there, and that's actually really insane. And yeah, as a Lions fan, this is the first time I really realized how good Nate Herbig can be. This was a really nice move there on the left tackle, and yeah, just completely smoked him. And for Aaron Rodgers, there was definitely some of those vintage plays, like the play to Metcalf on the right side in the first quarter, and then a couple plays later, he actually almost takes a sack, but then he dumps it off to, I think it was Gainwell there, losing 9 yards when he probably should have just thrown it at Darnell Washington's feet on that play and not taking a huge loss. That was kind of a weird one. But then a couple drives later, he makes a crazy play while scrambling, just kind of backhand flips it to Tyler Warren, and that was insane. It was only a 6-yard pass, but it was definitely an impressive play. And then coming out of the half, you had that play action pass where he kind of misses DK Metcalf, kind of like he is jumping away from a hit and throwing the ball downfield along the left sideline. Really missed him by about 10 yards there. That's a play that maybe 5 years ago Rodgers makes in his sleep, but maybe doesn't have quite the arm strength to make that kind of throw when his feet are off the ground, you know? So yeah, you kind of got a bit of both worlds there from Rodgers, some of the vintage stuff and some of the maybe he's looking a little aged stuff, I think. But yeah, I think the Steelers probably handled that front from the Browns about as well as you could hope for, and they were able to run the ball as well. Tyler Warren was running hard as well. You had a couple nice runs there from Caleb Johnson as well, so that's cool. But overall, I wouldn't be too worried about the Steelers offense going forward. I do think they look well coached. Now for the Browns, you had Dillon Gabriel out there. I thought he didn't look too bad, honestly. A couple missed throws, just kind of on the wrong shoulder of the wide receivers, and just a couple plays where he throws it at a defender, doesn't really realize that the defender is going to be able to make a break on a ball. But overall, I would say he looked like a rookie out there. You know, he made some really nice throws, like the one he made to Harold Fannett along the left sideline and an over route or something. He was scrambling to his left and made this crazy throw. Put it right in his hands. Fannett not able to come up with that one, unfortunate. And you also had a couple other drops throughout this game. Definitely one by Isaiah Bond, and I thought another one by Jerry Jeudy on kind of an out route. Looked like he should have caught that one. So definitely it wasn't all Dillon Gabriel's fault. I mean, he made a couple mistakes, but that's what you're going to get from a rookie. And I definitely do not think you should put Shedeur in there right now. I feel like Gabriel should at least get a few games to, see if he can improve on a few things. And if you look on X or Twitter right now, you will see a lot of people talking about Shedeur Sanders and how he should be playing next week. But I just really don't get that feeling at all from watching this game. It felt like Dillon Gabriel played well enough to keep playing and keep his job for now. And it definitely did look like quite an improvement from what we got from Joe Flacco a few weeks ago. There also was some other things not really helping the Browns. You had an illegal formation call. They called on Cam Robinson. It was like a play where the guard and tackles were both almost a whole yard behind the center. It was insane when they showed the clip of like a shot down the line. It was like the center was literally like a whole yard in front of the rest of the offensive line. So that's obviously a penalty. And the announcer was talking about it. But then on the following play, they basically came out in the same exact formation, and it wasn't called. So this kind of tells me it's probably something that the Browns know about, the referees know about, the coaches know about, the Steelers know about it. It's kind of like they're just going to keep doing this unless it's called on every single play. And it kind of reminds me of how a lot of teams play defense in the NFL. They will basically just grab receivers every single play until they start calling penalties. And then they will start to slowly inch off of it as the penalties keep getting thrown. They will stop grabbing. But I feel like the Browns are kind of doing this a lot, possibly. And if you look on X or Twitter, there are a lot of people saying that the Browns have been called for illegal formations a lot under Stefanski, so this might just be a thing with Stefanski. I don't know. I guess it's possible that he's kind of coaching them to push the line in terms of how far you can line up as a tackle and as a guard on obvious passing downs, but it's definitely an illegal formation, so we'll have to see what happens there if the NFL kind of cracks down on that. But yeah, I also thought for the Browns, it was a really odd decision to have Tyson Campbell basically shadowing DK Metcalf for what it felt like most of the game. He was following him around. I don't understand why that's not Denzel Ward. Denzel Ward is the guy you want doing that. And a lot of the big plays that the Steelers got in the passing game were to DK Metcalf working on Tyson Campbell. So, I mean, there were a couple double moves in there. There were the speed outs, all sorts of stuff where it's just not a good matchup. That's what Denzel Ward is for. So yeah, to me, that is just a really bad coaching decision and probably cost the Browns some points in this game. Just having Tyson Campbell covering DK Metcalf, it should have been Denzel Ward. And yeah, other than that, I really felt like the Browns had no chance in blocking the Steelers this game. Whether it was 4-man, 5-man rushes, they really just could not block guys one-on-one. You know, it was Urbig. You also had TJ Watt going off. There was one time where they called TJ Watt offsides. Definitely was offsides. He was kind of pushing that envelope as far as he could until he got called, obviously. He does that a lot. But, yeah, definitely got called once. But, yeah, I mean, the Steelers' defensive line with Keanu Benton, Cam Hayward, and now Nate Herbig with TJ Watt and Highsmith, that is just insane. And Derek Harmon. So you really have 6 guys there who can get after the passer. Plus you have an elite number 1 with TJ Watt. This is just going to be really hard for teams to try and block up and try to figure out how are we going to pick up a 3rd and long versus the Steelers. So, yeah, we could potentially see the Steelers get a lot of sacks the second half of this season, as it seems their D-line is really heating it up right now. Okay, so that was most of what I wanted to talk about this game, but we also had this play where Jabril Peppers was flagged for an illegal block on a punt return. This is the kind of play where they are starting to call blindside block, even though you're really facing the guy's chest because he's kind of turning into you. Really what they're saying is you're not allowed to block somebody who's running towards your end zone anymore. That's kind of a rule change they had in this past offseason. And to me, it's kind of a terrible change because you're going to get a lot of these plays on punts and kick returns. And there also was a couple plays like this where you have a quarterback chasing down an interception who gets blocked, and then they call it a blindside block, basically, because you have a guy trying to chase down the player with the ball, and then he gets blocked. Even though he may have a chance of making the tackle, you're just not allowed to block him, apparently, especially if they're a quarterback. So for me, this is something that's going to have to change. It's very similar to the hip drop tackle change that they tried to make a couple years ago. Did not go well at all. It's just something you cannot take out of the game of football. You have to be able to block guys that are pursuing a ball carrier. It just is not something that makes sense at all. And this is something that like fans don't agree with, coaches don't agree with, the players don't agree with it either. So yeah, to me, really, I don't really understand, and I don't think this is something that's going to stand long term. So they probably should change this as soon as possible, or just stop calling this, because that's what they did with the hip drop tackle. They just stopped calling it. I don't even know if they've technically changed the rule, But it was just a rule that made no sense because how else are you going to tackle someone who's in front of you running towards the goal line? You're going to have to grab them around the waist, obviously. So yeah, hopefully they change this going forward, because we do not need a play like this to happen in the playoffs and then a team to lose a game because they're not allowed to block somebody that's going to tackle a ball carrier. It's really stupid. And just a couple more things on this game. You had Boswell missing on a field goal there near the end. He kind of like slipped. It looked like this field was very messy. The announcers were definitely talking about it. The field was like just really choppy and messy, and I guess sandy. The grass was just kind of coming up a lot. Like, this field has not been well maintained this season. I don't really understand why the NFL is so cheap on some of this kind of stuff. But yeah, you basically have these teams that make billions of dollars and they do not want to take care of the field. And yeah, that's just not a good look. Also, you had Cam Robinson going down in garbage time. Looks like maybe a knee thing or an ankle thing, but it does appear to be some kind of knee injury. And hopefully that's not season ending or anything like that, but we'll have to see. So yeah, overall, definitely for the Steelers, looking pretty good right now. Got some good young players starting to play really well with Washington and Herbig. Also, Aaron Rodgers looks like he's playing pretty well. You know, you're getting some really high upside stuff. And just a couple plays where he looks a little old out there, of course. And then the Steelers defense, definitely the defensive line looking really, really good, potentially going forward. And then for the Browns, I don't really think it's panic time right now on Dillon Gabriel. I really feel like he's got to keep playing right now, and you have to see what you got in him, because if you don't and you put Shedeur in there, it could be even worse. And we can't really act like Shedeur has no problems. We all saw it in the preseason. He takes way too many sacks. Almost every time he's under pressure, he's going to try and retreat and often try to spin out of sacks. And yeah, that's just something you can't really do in the NFL a whole lot unless you're an insane athlete. And he's just not that kind of athlete who's going to get away from NFL defenders, man. So he's going to have to learn how to play quarterback differently and mostly from the pocket. And maybe someday Shedeur can be a good NFL quarterback, but I don't really know if that's right now. And right now it's time for Dillon Gabriel to keep playing, because I do think he played well enough to keep playing, for sure. So that's really all I have for you guys today. We'll catch you in the next video, and thanks for watching.